Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Wake Up Wednesday. And we're here just waiting for a couple of people to log in. And we are here on Zoom. And while we're waiting for some people to log in, I'm going to give you a little bit about the Sleep Forum and about myself. So my name is Ruth Marion, and I would like to welcome you to Wake Up Wednesday, brought to you by the Sleep Forum. I must say, after suffering burnout from being in the meeting industry for over 20 years, I decided to form the Sleep Forum in 2017 as a platform dedicated to providing valuable information about sleep through podcasts and articles. Well, since then, the Sleep Forum has grown tremendously, gathering a substantial number of subscribers and attracting thousands of followers on many social media platforms. And today, we're thrilled to have you here to join us for this episode of Wake Up Wednesday as we continue to embark together on a journey towards better sleep and improved well-being. Today, we're talking about promoting women's well-being by prioritizing sleep and establishing healthy boundaries. So hold on one second. And there we go. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay. So let me get back to that. Today, we're here talking about about promoting women's well-being, prioritizing sleep, and establishing healthy boundaries. So I'm going to ask everybody who's on, if you'd like, please feel free to post your questions for our guest or for me. So right now, I would like to welcome our guest and sleep expert, Dr. Funky I'm sorry, I might have messed up your name, Afalabi Brown. And Dr. Brown, I'm just going to call her Funky because it's easier, is a triple board certified sleep medicine physician. She is passionate about helping people discover sleep as their superpower. Dr. Brown is a clinical speaker, a consultant, a clinician, and a coach. And she helps professionals and their children, especially, prioritize sleep to thrive and achieve optimal health and to live to their fullest potential. So as a physician for almost 2 decades, Dr. Brown, and a mom of 2 who struggled with sleep issues, and we're going to get into that, fully understands the impact of sleep deprivation on mental, physical, and emotional health, as we all do. As a result, she has dedicated her career to helping others optimize their sleep. Dr. Brown is a frequent speaker at conferences. So any of my friends out there who are meeting and event planners, pay attention, because Dr. Brown is a wonderful speaker, and I think she would be a great addition to any conference out there, especially talking about health and well-being and sleep. So I guess without further ado, I'm going to introduce Funky to you. Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. It's just really a great honor to be here and to be here on Wake Up Wednesday. I love it.
Excellent. So let's start talk about a little bit about women's sleep, and how is it different from men, for example? Let's talk about the difference.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent place to start. You know, when we talk about women's sleep, I would say there are pretty much 4 areas that I want to highlight. So the first are the hormonal changes, right? So starting from just the menstrual cycle, there are changes during the menstrual cycle that impact sleep, leading to some moodiness, some tiredness. Sometimes there may be excessive sleepiness, and sometimes there may be difficulties with sleep. And then another big hormonal change that we experience is pregnancy and postpartum. And everybody that's been a parent knows what that feels like, right? The mood swings, the hormones changing can impact our sleep quality, right? And then we move on to perimenopause and menopause. And during that time as well, we're getting a lot of changes with estrogen and progesterone, which all both have a role in impacting our sleep quality. And then post, with menopause and even post-menopause, you also start to have issues with, other conditions, cardiovascular health, osteoporosis, so pain, all those things can contribute to sleep issues. So that's hormonal changes. The other area that I want to talk about that differentiates us are also lifestyle, right? Or I would say life stages. So you move from, you're a woman, a career woman, right? So that stage of life is pretty intense. All the demands, if you hold a corporate job or you own your own business, you're doing all those. So those career challenges are big, right? That stage of life. And then you move forward and go through motherhood, right? So we talked about hormonal changes, but just the role of being a parent, right? The responsibilities, now you're juggling work with home life and all the responsibilities and obligations. So that's a big difference. And then with aging, right? So with aging comes, it's beautiful, right? But then it comes with its own challenges. So that's another life stage that can impact our sleep. Then the third, I would say the pillar are our routines, our daily routines. So what are the expectations? There's a double burden, there's a double tax on women as professionals and then coming home as parents, as mothers, right? So those demands, we're taxed at work and the team we're leading or the obligations and things we're doing at work. And then we go home and we continue. So it's almost like you leave your work, you leave one shift and then you go start another shift at home. And then also just our self-care responsibilities, our self-care routines, many times as women, we put everybody else before us. So we don't take that time for self-care. We don't take that time to focus on our health. I know so many women who have just not been to their gynecologist in years because, oh, well, but then if their child has, a sniffle, they're the first to show up at the pediatrician's office, right? So we don't prioritize our health as women. And then finally, the social expectations. Sometimes it seems like as women, we're super women. We're meant to be strong and stoic and be able to do everything. So we're not asking for help. We're not delegating appropriately, right? So that's the routine piece. And I would say the fourth piece is our emotional well-being, right? So over that, sometimes thankfully, there's becoming more of an awareness on the importance of our emotional well-being. But before, to say that you're depressed or you're anxious was almost a sign of weakness, right? So that is hopefully changing now, but that's also another area where women are different from men. And as a result of that, their sleep is different.
That's right. I mean, we do. We think we can do it all.
Yep.
And I find personally, and I can speak one as I don't ask for help, right? I mean, we can do everything. And that's what I don't know how or why that mindset is what it is, but I think it's changing and I hope it's changing. I think women are starting to put uh more duties onto their other half, if there is one, to help. So I do think I think that is changing, I hope. So let's talk about what happens when women don't prioritize their sleep. What happens?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So from top to bottom, again, especially if we are women like you and I probably are high achievers, we set big goals, we want to accomplish them, we want to be more productive. All those things need us to be healthy, which we can't really be healthy when we don't sleep well. So, I usually kind of start with this top to bottom approach when it comes to consequences of not prioritizing sleep. So just even understanding why sleep is essential, when we think about our brain function, there are systems in our brain that requires cleansing of products that build up on the surface of our brain over the course of the day. That system is in place and we need sleep to be able to accomplish that. That's the glymphatic or G lymphatic system. So when we're not able to do that, one of the things we start to develop is memory problems. And they've actually looked at this. They've seen that buildup of those deposits can contribute to Alzheimer's disease. So we are really setting ourselves up for a future where we might potentially be at risk for developing this, which is not good. And, mood regulation becomes an issue. Many times we will notice, and most people will agree to this, that even one day of sleep deprivation, you find out your mood may be more labile, maybe more irritable, right? And over time, you can start to feel more anxious, especially if you have those tendencies before. Although there's an understanding that this is a bi-directional relationship. So it's not necessarily that your sleep has now caused anxiety or caused depression. It might be that you already have a threshold really that's pretty low. And so that sort of tips you over the edge. And then in terms of our memory and our creativity and being able to optimize performance, it is all connected to sleep, because there's certain stages of sleep where we're filing, we're learning and sort of consolidating the learning that we have achieved over the course of the day, right? And creativity also occurs during sleep. So that's one big piece that I think, when we talk about sleep, sometimes I usually will say is sleep is the ultimate performance enhancing tool. If you want to really perform at your top, at the best you can, you should add sleep. It's incredible. And then even our physical health, if we don't sleep well, cardiac health, there's studies extensively that have looked at heart health in relation to, sleep in relation to increased risk of hypertension, increased risk of strokes, of, different heart diseases, including arrhythmias. And in this, it is both a combination of poor sleep, either because there's an underlying sleep disorder or just chronically insufficient sleep. Immune systems are impacted too. Immune regulation occurs during sleep. So if you notice you're getting a lot of colds, you're just really susceptible, that might actually be because of poor sleep. And they've now been around that same mechanism, because some of these immune cells actually help with fighting cancer. So there have been cancers now that have been associated with poor sleep. Then, another big one I would say is our metabolism, right? We're going through so many different stages in life. So when we don't sleep well, hormone imbalance can occur. So you may be at risk for developing insulin resistance, developing diabetes. Obesity is actually also related to poor sleep, as well as just really, a lot of hormone abnormalities. So these are things that are critical. So when we think about it, it's our mental health, our learning, or our emotional well-being, and then our physical health is impacted. And, this is just a few of the things that happen when we don't sleep well.
And not only that, I mean, here we're talking, and I know because I can see that there's a lot of high achieving women on our webinar right now. And I just want to say, we need to put our own masks on before and we need to take care of ourselves in order to take care of others. I mean, if that's something that we want to do, or even just to be, as you said, to be most productive. And clear-minded. I mean, I know when I don't get enough sleep at night, I'm foggy. I'm not, it's not good. So we spoke a little bit about the reason why we need health, need to get some sleep. Personal relationships, we talked about work and self-care. Now, let's talk about some takeaways, or like what can we do about all this? Okay, we have, I like to, we talk about the problem, but I always like to talk about the solution as well. So here we are, we have all this. And I'm going to just say out loud, if anybody has any questions that are on right now on Zoom, please feel free to type them into our webinar chat. Or our question and answer box, and I'll be sure to read them to Funky for you. So, or to me, if that's who you're addressing the question to. In any case, so yeah, let's talk about solutions, because I really like talking about that part. We've got this woman, we've got women, we've got issues.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we do. So, we're at the point where we've talked about why sleep is important, why we don't, why our sleep is unique. We've also talked about what happens when we don't get good sleep. So we now have that understanding. And then the question is, what do we do? So, I could tell you about a gazillion sleep hygiene tips until I'm blue in the face. But if we don't deal with the mindset first, it's not going to work. So I usually try to go through this using, I'm a lover of acronyms. So I
Mhm.
usually go through an acronym called BEST because rest is best. So BEST, B stands for boundaries. So what does that look like? We need to set boundaries with ourselves as individuals, as women, right? We need to set boundaries with work. There has to be a point where work ends. You can't let work take over your life. We need to set boundaries with our family, even our loved ones. Again, because if we give them depleted and burnt out versions of ourselves, it's not the best, right? So boundaries are very important, and boundaries have been used. We're hearing about boundaries a lot nowadays, and I want you to not see boundaries as a bad word or like you're selfish. Boundaries are just kind of showing where you end, right? And where others start. So I think that's really important. And the fact that you set boundaries doesn't mean like you're shutting people out. You're just kind of you're protecting them and protecting yourself as well. So what do boundaries look like when it comes to our sleep? It might look like having a time when you say, I'm going to shut off the phone. I'm not going to take any more emails after, 6 p.m. or whatever that looks like. And initially, especially if you're a leader, number one, you're thinking about, I'm being a role model to my employees, to my team. Because if you're sending them emails at 11 p.m., guess what? They think it's supposed to be up at 11 p.m.,
Right.
right? And so if you're able to say, and this is one thing I usually will
True.
talk to when I speak with leaders of organizations, I say, just put on, when you're done, even if you have to send that email late, you can
Right.
just say, you're not obliged to respond to this email if you're out of office. You can respond during the next business hours, something of that sort, because then you're empowering them. Okay, this is something they can review at a later time, but they don't have to do it. And it also is very empowering for you. So those boundaries are very important. Boundaries with our family, with kids, right? I'm a sleep expert as well, really helping them know that, well, you are an individual and sleep is something that's individualized and it's independent, and teaching them how to sleep is setting the right and healthy boundaries. And then you're also setting boundaries with yourself, which is, okay, I love to check Facebook or Instagram, but I'm going to set a boundary to say after a certain time, we're going to shut it down. So usually about 60 minutes or 30 to 60 minutes before bed, I say, set those boundaries where you can say, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to make sure that sleep is a priority. So that's the first. And then the E is expectations. What are the expectations? And this is really, I think, is really something that I feel like a lot of women need to hear. You have to set expectations with yourself to realize that I am not superwoman. I don't have all the answers. So this is where learning to delegate, finding out what's on my plate that is stealing my rest or stealing my sleep. What am I doing until 11 p.m. that's making it hard for me to fall asleep, right? And trying to set expectations around, what am I supposed to be doing this, or can somebody else do it for me, right? I think that's one of the things, learning to ask for help. And when it comes to expectations as well, that's also falls under the umbrella of comparison. As women, right?
Mhm.
You think you're doing okay until you meet the next, keeping up with the Joneses, right? You see Miss Jones, she looks fabulous, her life looks good, and then you wonder, oh my gosh, I'm falling apart, right? We cannot compare ourselves because we are running different races. So really don't compare yourself, because when you do, then that's what makes you strive. That's what makes you want to grind and hustle and do more and do more. And guess what suffers? Your sleep. So that's E. And then S is actually sleep. And, I could either go into the details on, okay, these are the nuts and bolts of how I usually will encourage women to prioritize sleep. But really, it is make sleep a priority, right? Make sure that you're seeing sleep as a recurring appointment that you do not miss, because it's life changing every single night. a miracle happens when you go to sleep. Healing happens, recovery, restoration happens. So don't miss out on your sleep. And, you know, I'll talk about what are the things you need to do and things like that for that. And then I usually will say T stands for taking stock, taking stock. And then it also stands for Thanksgiving and being thankful. So taking stock, meaning be true to yourself. How am I doing? Many times we're running, running, running. We're depleted. We're running on empty. We never have time to just reflect on how we're doing. What are things that I need to change? Am I feeling burnt out? What do I need to be well? Right? This current lifestyle that I'm living, is it going to take me to my goal? You have to check in. And if it's not, you're like, oh, wow, I've taken stock and I'm only getting 5 hours of sleep. And I want to be the healthiest version of myself. I want to live long and I want to live well. Okay, now I'm going to make the decision to make changes to optimize my sleep. And then Thanksgiving, we need to live in gratitude.
That's right.
Because many times it feels like nothing is working, but things are working. You know, you have a community, you have a job, you have kids, if you have kids that love you, even if they don't act like it. So there's a lot to be thankful for, and it helps shift that mindset of, oh my gosh, I'm burnt out, nothing is working. So wow, there are things that are working. So that's really the shift that I recommend starting with when we're at the point where we want to start to enhance our lives by optimizing our sleep.
I love that answer. I mean, I just think setting boundaries is so important. And what a fantastic answer. And just to start with that tiny little change in your life, setting
Yeah.
boundaries, just a little thing can make a huge difference in your entire day and your sleep. I mean, the day and the sleep are connected. People, I think that is something we should also just touch on really. We do have a few
Yeah.
minutes. So let's talk about how is your day and your night connected?
Oh, such a powerful question. So yes. And one of the things I usually will say is restful sleep habits don't start when your head hits the pillow.
Exactly.
It starts the moment you wake up. Because when you wake up, and especially hopefully you're waking up at a reasonable time in the morning, the sun is rising, right? And so the natural light is really one of the biggest cues to our circadian rhythm. And our circadian rhythms are what controls our wake and our sleep cycles, right? So when you wake up and you expose yourself to light, you are almost like reinforcing that circadian rhythm to say, it is morning, I'm going to start my day. Because if your day doesn't start, then your brain doesn't even know when it's supposed to sleep, right? So that's very important. And then the other thing we do during the day is movement. Physical exercise, activity is so important for your sleep. You're actually depositing towards good quality sleep. So activities, walking, exercise, weight training, whatever it is, it boosts your mood, which is good for your sleep. It increases your sleep drive, which is good for your sleep. It decreases cortisol, right? We want to make sure that your cortisol is not too high where you're stressed out, right? It also helps with addressing, anxiety and things like that. So exercise is good. The other thing that happens during the day is experiences and being mindful with those experiences. You might have positive experiences, you might have negative experiences, but when you take the time to stop and have breaks in your day instead of just running through, it actually helps your sleep and it decreases the mind racing. So making sure you have check-ins with yourself. How am I feeling right now? Have I moved? Have I drank enough water? Have I had some time to just breathe and calm down? So you're doing all that scheduled during the day so that at night, it's not just hitting you like a ton of bricks, right? And then I would say the final thing is meals, right? So meals actually also play a role with our circadian rhythms.
Right.
So making sure that you're eating healthy, making sure that you're eating rich, usually Mediterranean diets is great for sleep. So making sure your plate is colorful, the greens are there, the healthy fats are there, the fiber is there. All those things are happening during the day, but they end up impacting our sleep.
Mm-hmm. Wow, wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we realize that, I think people think sleep is sleep and the day is the
Hmm.
day. Well, how do you feel about naps?
Oh, good question. Nap is my love language, so I'm okay with naps. But I think you have to go to your why. Why do you need a nap? So if you are someone who has insomnia, meaning that you have a diagnosis of or condition where you have difficulties falling asleep, you have difficulties staying asleep, you're up all night, your mind is racing, you're tossing and turning, then you probably shouldn't take a nap. You probably should see a sleep specialist. But if you're someone who, you just take a little power nap just to kind of get through from time to time, that is absolutely fine. I will just recommend that you don't take naps too late because over the course of the day, you build what we call a sleep drive.
Okay.
So if you take a nap that's too late, you're not going to have enough time to build that sleep drive, and that might make you have a hard time falling asleep. So if you want to take a nap, maybe earlier in the day, I would say you probably don't want to nap after about 1 or 2 p.m. and you really want to keep the nap short. Usually I would limit naps to about 20 to 30 minutes if you
Okay.
need them. But also you have to ask, do I just want a nap or do I need a nap? If you're constantly in need of a nap, then we got to go back and say why. Why? Because if you have good quality nighttime sleep, you shouldn't need a nap. You might want a nap just to enjoy it, but you shouldn't need it. So is it a need or is it a want? And then you can make a decision based on that.
Great answer. Thank you for that. We do have a question. I'm going to read it out loud because I don't want to end our webinar without getting to the questions as I promised. And we have a question that says, should I move out of my bedroom or make my husband sleep in a guest room?
Oh, I think that's a loaded question. It would be helpful to get a little more detail, but what I would assume, there are a few reasons because I work with a lot of couples as well. There are a few reasons why that question might be coming up, and you can let me know if I'm right. It might be because I have a sleep issue and I'm concerned that it's disrupting my husband, or my husband has a sleep issue, i.e., snoring, because snoring is very common in men, and it's disrupting my sleep. So the answer to both is, really, really paying attention to what is going on. If it's your sleep that's disrupted, where maybe you're waking up frequently, I think I mean, sending your husband to the guest room would be like a band-aid. I mean, at least it would make sure he's getting sleep, but we need to address your sleep issue. What's going on with your sleep? Why is it, right? So that's one. Now, if it's your husband who's having a sleep issue, maybe they're snoring or they have insomnia, especially snoring. Snoring in adults it's probably a sign of sleep apnea, and it's a dangerous condition. So that needs to be treated. Again, moving them to the guest room is a band-aid. We need to make sure they are breathing well during sleep. So if they're snoring, making sure that they get a sleep study, they see a sleep specialist, because we want to treat that. Snoring or sleep apnea has been a culprit for heart attacks, for strokes, for so many dangerous diabetes, for so many things. So we want to make sure that's fixed. So it might be a temporary fix because everybody's exhausted and it's really not helping your relationship to kind of split up. And there's nothing wrong with that, because when you're sleeping, you're not talking, you're not building a relationship right there
That's
and then.
right. That's
So
right.
it's fine.
He's
But I
sleeping.
want you to, exactly, I want you to figure out what is going on and deal with the why. Intimacy, I've seen some people that have split bedrooms, intimacy is better because you're no more angry with the spouse for keeping you up all night, right? So that's okay. But again, it's back to why. What is the reason for this? So I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. I think that was a good start to an answer. Like you said, it's a very loaded question.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what about, we have one more question here, and I do want to read it out loud. It says, what about sleep aids, using sleep
Oh,
aids?
so sleep aids are a billion, did I say billion? Billion with a B, $1 billion industry, which again shows you how sleep deprived this country is and the world. So it's big. So that's a big question. So I would say there are different types of sleep aids. I mean, the most common is, it turns out, probably alcohol. People
Mm,
don't know that, but that's a sleep aid. So
mm,
um, alcohol is a sedative. It helps you fall asleep, but it is metabolized very quickly in your liver and has no use for your sleep because it ends up disrupting your sleep. If you snore and you have sleep apnea, it's going to make sleep apnea worse. And then it also causes this rebound phenomenon where your sleep now is fragmented and you're waking up multiple times and you might wake up with a hangover. So that's alcohol. Another sleep aid is something like melatonin. Our brains beautifully make enough melatonin for us most times, but in some situations, maybe you're a shift worker or you have jet lag, that might make it such that your melatonin is a little bit disrupted. So in those situations, yes, you could use melatonin. I would say use it under the guidance of an physician of some sort.
okay.
Because the dosing and the duration, those are things that we want to take into consideration. And then all these over-the-counter Tylenol, NyQuil, ZQuil, Tylenol PM, on the very, very short term, like if you have a pain, you have knee pain and you needed to take like Advil PM or something because the pain is keeping you up, that is fine. But you have to realize that especially some of these products, they're mixed with other things. So Tylenol has Tylenol. And we don't want to overdose on Tylenol because it can affect the liver. So if you're taking it frequently, you probably want to get checked out to say, what is going on? Why do I need it?
Okay.
So I would say, yeah, again, they are band-aids. On the very short term, with the guidance of an expert, it is fine. But most times we need to get to the bottom of the root cause of the problem.
Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions up at this time. I'm going to give it a second, but as we wind down, I just want to say thank you so much. You're amazing. I love speaking with
Oh,
you. I really do. I love speaking with you. And I just want to say that if there's anybody out there that would like to speak with Dr. Brown, it's restfulsleep.com. And she's also somebody that can help you if you have children that aren't sleeping well, that are disrupting your sleep. Why don't you tell everybody
yeah,
what kinds of, let
yes.
me leave it to you instead of to me. Go
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So Restful Sleep MD is a company where, like you mentioned, Ruth, we help individuals, especially busy professionals and their children with their sleep. So whether it's a medical sleep issue, where you think it's a snoring child or snoring you or snoring spouse, we can figure that out for you because if you have sleep apnea, we won't address it. Whether it's insomnia, where you are using sleep aids and you're doing all the sleep hacks and sleep hygiene and it's not working, that's something we help with too. If you have a child who's having sleep issues and they're not staying in their bed or they have sleep
ahead.
anxiety or they're waking up multiple times, those are things that we address as well. So we really provide extensive sleep services. Or maybe you're even a new mom who just wants to get it right from the start. We help with helping you build a sleep schedule for your child. And then that's one arm. So that's my clinical arm. I also offer coaching for moms because I think that's a big piece. So a lot of what I talked about, right, the pillars in terms of boundary setting, work-life balance, all those things impact sleep. So we do go through coaching, one-on-one coaching to really help individualize your sleep needs or your needs so that your sleep can be optimized. And then one of my passions is really leading workshops and consulting with organizations in terms of optimizing sleep for their teams, for employees, or at conferences. So if you have a wellness conference or a retreat or an event and you don't want to just say sleep 7 to 9 hours, you want to say this is how to sleep, then I would be more than happy to facilitate that, to lead that workshop, or to speak at that event. And the best way, like Ruth said, to contact me is restfulsleepmd.com. So that's restfulsleepmd.com.
Awesome. Well, this was wonderful. I thank you very much for being on today. Next week on Wake Up Wednesday, we're going to be speaking about sleep and hypnosis. So that is next week. If you want to register, please do. I'll put that up on our website. Again, it's thesleepforum.com. And thank you again, everybody, for being on today. I so appreciate it. And I appreciate you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you.
Have a great day.